chosen ones. There is a profound, quiet power in allowing people to believe they have the upper hand. For a very long time, you have walked into rooms, observed conversations, and watched people maneuver around you, assuming you were completely oblivious to their subtle games. You saw the smirks, felt the shifted energy, and picked up on the hidden motives long before a single word was spoken. Yet, instead of reacting, proving your point, or exposing their hand, you simply smiled, nodded, and let them play out their script. To the untrained eye, it looked like helplessness or naivety. They mistook your composure for ignorance and your silence for weakness. They walked away secretly congratulating themselves, believing they had manipulated the situation and successfully outsmarted you. What they failed to realize is that your silence was never a sign of confusion. It was a deliberate choice rooted in spiritual mastery. You were not being outsmarted. You were quietly collecting data and assessing their true spirit. By withholding your reaction, you gave them the exact space they needed to reveal their real character, all while you maintained absolute, untouchable authority over your own divine energy. Chosen ones. In a world obsessed with noise, reactivity, and having the last word, choosing to remain quiet is almost universally misread as a form of defeat. Most people operate entirely from their egos, navigating their relationships through constant power dynamics, subtle intimidation, and cheap psychological tricks. When they feel threatened or driven by hidden jealousy, their immediate instinct is to seek dominance, projecting their own internal insecurities onto anyone they perceive as gentle or passive. They enter every interaction expecting a fight, priming themselves to match your resistance, lower your vibration, and drag you down into the chaotic mud of their own making. When you choose to play dumb in the face of these subtle attacks, you completely shatter the foundation of their entire game plan. You step entirely out of the psychological trap they meticulously set for you, leaving their expectations hanging in empty air without any leverage to pull. By deliberately withholding your emotional reaction, you deny them the exact spiritual energy they were desperate to drain from you in order to validate their own fragile superiority. High-level spiritual awareness understands that not every petty battle deserves the sound of your voice, nor does every foolish lie require your corrective energy to set it straight. There is a profound, strategic elegance in allowing a deceitful person to walk away, believing that their petty deception actually succeeded. It is a form of spiritual discipline that separates those who are merely reactive from those who are truly grounded in divine mastery. You willingly grant them a meaningless, superficial victory in an argument so that you can keep your focus undisturbed on the broader, long-term trajectory of your life's purpose. While they are busy celebrating what they believe is a clever manipulation, you are calmly preserving your focus, keeping your spirit untainted by their temporary madness. This remarkable capacity to stay completely composed while holding full awareness of the hidden truth is not a skill that can be acquired through academic study or simple intellect. It is forged through deep inner maturity, born from the hard-won realization that the way people treat you is never really about you at all, but rather a direct reflection of their own internal struggles and unhealed wounds. When you finally release the egoic need to prove how much you know, you instantly gain the ultimate strategic advantage in any environment: total invisibility. They cannot prepare a defense against your next move because their own arrogance has convinced them that you don't even realize a game is being played in the first place. You become a ghost to their manipulative tactics, navigating through their hidden agendas without leaving a single trace of your true capabilities for them to analyze. This level of spiritual camouflage allows you to protect your peace while continuing to move through the world with absolute clarity and precision. You are present, but your true power remains hidden behind a curtain of complete composure. Furthermore, this silence acts as a natural filter for the people and environments you allow into your inner sanctuary. By choosing not to react immediately to every red flag or subtle insult, You grant people the uninterrupted freedom to expose their true boundaries and ethical limits. You step back and give them the stage, watching how they treat you when they believe there are no eyes watching and no consequences to face. It is a quiet form of spiritual warfare where your patience serves as the ultimate mirror reflecting their hidden nature back to them. In this quiet space, you begin to see that silence is not the absence of thought, but the highest concentration of awareness. While they mistake your gentle demeanor for ignorance, your mind is actively processing patterns, discerning spiritual frequencies, and assessing the true weight of their character. You are learning who can be trusted with your light and who must be kept at a safe, permanent distance. You do not need to raise your voice or make dramatic declarations when your internal compass is already rendering a clear, undeniable verdict on the situation. Many people consume immense amounts of spiritual energy trying to fix broken dynamic or correct people who have no interest in being honest. They exhaust their minds through endless late-night overthinking, trying to construct arguments that will finally make the other person realize their mistakes. But true wisdom recognizes the futility of trying to enlighten someone who is actively committed to misunderstanding you. By choosing silence over struggle, you reclaim your mental clarity and preserve your vital energy for those who actually honor your presence. Playing dumb also functions as a powerful protective barrier for your intuitive gifts and inner light. When you reveal the full extent of your spiritual discernment to those who operate from dark or manipulative motives, you inadvertently invite unnecessary friction and resentment into your life. People who feel exposed often become aggressive out of self-preservation. By allowing them to believe you are unaware, you neutralize their hostility before it can ever manifest, ensuring that your journey remains smooth, protected, and unbothered by outside noise. Ultimately, mastering the wisdom of silence is about recognizing the infinite value of your own life force. Your energy is a sacred resource reserved for creation, healing, and fulfilling your higher calling, not for engaging in meaningless friction with those who thrive on conflict. When you step back and allow them to revel in their false sense of victory, you remain completely untouched, holding your head high in the knowledge that your peace was never theirs to compromise. Arrogance is inherently, fundamentally blind to the deeper realities of the spiritual world. When someone sets out to take advantage of your gentle nature, their own inflated ego instantly creates a massive, impenetrable blind spot within their awareness. They become so profoundly captivated by their own perceived cleverness that they completely stop paying attention to the subtle, energetic shifts taking place all around them. They begin to celebrate their victories prematurely, fully convinced that they have managed to pull the wool over the eyes of someone who simply lacks the intelligence to see through them. What their blind pride fails to account for is the heightened, razor-sharp intuition that carries a chosen one through every corridor of life. Your perception does not rely merely on surface-level words, staged gestures, or performative kindness. It operates on a frequency that cuts directly through the veil of physical appearances. You possess the innate ability to read true intentions long before they ever manifest into concrete actions, sensing the underlying spirit behind the mask. You feel the atmosphere in a room shift the exact moment someone's spoken words fail to match the silent frequency of their heart. When you stood in front of them and allowed them to believe that their subtle scheme had worked, you were actually placing them in a spiritual vacuum where their true character could be observed without any filter. By pretending not to notice their disrespect or deceit, you effectively stripped away all their natural defenses and excuses. Human beings only show the unvarnished reality of who they are when they are operating under the firm belief that there are no immediate consequences and that the other person is completely blind to what is happening. You allowed them to feel entirely comfortable in their deception, and in doing so, they unknowingly laid out every detail of their true motivations, their hidden insecurities, and their ultimate limitations. They showed you precisely how they operate when they think no one is keeping score, revealing whether they possess genuine integrity or if their entire persona is merely an act designed for personal gain. It was never about you being passive, helpless, or easily led down a path of their choosing. It was a conscious decision to let the absolute truth reveal itself naturally without you having to lift a single finger. This creates a fascinating, hidden dynamic where the manipulator becomes the one who is actually being contained and studied. While they are busy orchestrating what they believe is a masterclass in control, they are entirely unaware that they have been granted a temporary pass to play their part in a lesson designed for your spiritual elevation. Their perceived control is nothing more than a fleeting illusion, a temporary fantasy allowed by your conscious choice to hold your tongue and conserve your strength for what truly matters. As they continue to misinterpret your gentleness as a vulnerability, their own overconfidence causes them to drop their guard lower and lower over time. They begin to speak more freely, move more recklessly, and leave behind undeniable tracks of their true motives that even the physical world can no longer ignore. By refusing to interrupt them while they were making their mistake, you allowed the law of truth to build a case that requires no loud arguments or dramatic confrontations to prove. There is an incredible, liberating power that comes from knowing that you do not need to police the behavior of others or constantly defend your honor against false narratives. The universe operates on precise, unbreakable energetic principles, and no amount of human arrogance can alter the spiritual laws of cause and effect. When someone uses deceit to advance themselves at your expense, they are not outsmarting you. They are simply accumulating a spiritual debt that they will eventually have to pay in full when the tide inevitably turns. This dynamic also serves as a profound test of your own spiritual maturity and self-discipline. It takes immense internal strength to hold a secret, to witness a falsehood, and to resist the urgent impulse to instantly vindicate yourself in front of others. Most people succumb to the desire to expose deceit the moment they spot it, driven by a need for social validation or instant justice. But as a chosen one, your ability to quietly carry the truth without needing an audience proves that your sense of worth is grounded entirely in divine approval rather than human applause. Furthermore, their temporary feeling of dominance traps them in a false reality of their own making. Because they believe they have successfully outmaneuvered you, they repeat the same manipulative tactics with higher stakes, completely unaware that their foundations are eroding from within. They build castles on sand while you continue to construct your life on the unshakable bedrock of truth, authenticity, and divine protection. Their arrogant belief in their own supremacy becomes the very anchor that prevents them from evolving or recognizing their own spiritual bankruptcy. Standing anchored in your truth allows you to watch these worldly games unfold with a sense of calm, detached compassion rather than anger or betrayal. You understand that their need to outsmart you is born from a deep, painful void within themselves, a desperate search for validation through power, because they lack genuine connection with their own soul. You walk away from the interaction not as a victim of their scheme, but as a silent witness who allowed truth to prevail in its own time and in its own divine way. Chosen ones. Engaging with pettiness or low-level manipulation requires you to step down into a frequency that simply does not belong to your spiritual origin. Every time you allow yourself to enter a chaotic argument just to prove that you see right through someone's game, you are actively investing your sacred energy into their distorted narrative. You voluntarily surrender your spiritual power just to satisfy a temporary, ego-driven demand to be recognized as right in the moment. High-frequency souls understand that their energy is far too precious to be scattered across minor conflicts with people who are committed to living in illusion. Playing dumb, when practiced from a place of high spiritual awareness, serves as the ultimate act of energetic conservation and self-preservation. It is the conscious realization that your peace, your mental focus, and your divine connection are far too valuable to be traded away for a fleeting moment of petty self-defense. You chose to absorb the tension quietly in the physical realm, process it internally with spiritual discernment, and adjust your personal boundaries without making a public scene. You recognized early on that exposing deceitful people verbally often leads to nothing more than empty denials, circular arguments, and endless spiritual friction. Instead of launching a verbal counterattack, you allowed the reality of the situation to settle quietly and deeply within your spirit. You made an invisible mental note, quietly withdrew your spiritual trust, and kept the core essence of your soul completely untouched by their negativity. You understood that true divine protection frequently manifests as quiet discernment rather than loud confrontation. You do not need to brandish your spiritual awareness like a visible weapon when your spirit is already anchored in absolute, unshakable truth. When you refuse to fight on a lower level, you keep your aura clear, vibrant, and impenetrable to outside corruption. Darker motives and manipulative energies thrive on conflict, drama, and emotional chaos. They feast on the emotional reactions of those who allow themselves to be provoked. By withholding your emotional reaction and maintaining a neutral demeanor, you starve those negative energies of the nourishment they need to grow. You become like a mirror, completely smooth, perfectly still, and entirely unbothered by the turbulence taking place around you. This intentional preservation of your frequency allows you to maintain direct, uninterrupted communication with your divine intuition. When your inner world is free from the clutter of constant resentment and defensive thoughts, your spiritual perception remains sharp, crystal clear, and remarkably accurate. You are able to receive higher guidance, recognize subtle warnings, and navigate complex human interactions with effortless grace. Your quiet silence becomes a sacred sanctuary where your spiritual gifts can continue to flourish without being contaminated by external noise. Furthermore, protecting your frequency means accepting that not everyone in your life is meant to accompany you into the next chapter of your journey. When you observe someone attempting to outsmart or manipulate you, it is often a clear signal from the universe that their role in your life has reached its natural conclusion. Instead of wasting time trying to reform them or force them to see their errors, you simply allow them to play out their script while you prepare to quietly step away. You release them without bitterness, knowing that their presence no longer aligns with where your path is leading. Many people spend years trapped in toxic cycles because they believe they must explain every boundary they set and justify every distance they create. They feel obligated to give lengthy explanations to those who have repeatedly shown a lack of respect for their well-being. But true spiritual authority understands that your silence is, in itself, a complete and authoritative statement. You do not need permission from those who mistreat you to protect your space, nor do you owe an explanation to those who deliberately choose not to value your worth. In this state of quiet boundary setting, your life begins to feel lighter, more purposeful, and deeply aligned with high-frequency experiences. You no longer carry the heavy burden of carrying other people's bad intentions, or worrying about how you are perceived by those who live in deceit. Your energy is liberated, flowing freely into your creative endeavors, your personal growth, and the meaningful relationships that nourish your soul. You begin to attract people and opportunities that mirror your own level of honesty, clarity, and spiritual depth. It is also important to remember that keeping your frequency high is not an act of arrogance or moral superiority over others. It is an act of pure stewardship over the soul God gave you. As a chosen one, you have been entrusted with a specific light, a unique vibration intended to uplift, heal, and bring truth into a world plagued by confusion. Diluting that light by engaging in low-level power struggles is a disservice to your higher calling. By keeping your spirit clean and unbothered, you remain a pure channel for divine grace to work through you. Ultimately, protecting your divine frequency is about standing firm in the knowledge that your worth was never determined by human approval or worldly cleverness. When you walk through life anchored in this truth, the games people play lose all their power to disturb you. You can look directly at deceit, smile with gentle understanding, and continue walking your path completely unscathed, knowing that your spirit is shielded by the highest authority in existence. Eventually, every artificial dynamic reaches a critical point where the truth can no longer remain suppressed beneath the surface. The fragile illusion that deceptive people work so hard to build begins to crack under the heavy weight of their own overconfidence and pride. When someone firmly believes they have completely outsmarted you, they naturally grow careless over time, abandoning the caution that once kept their motives hidden. They begin making bolder moves, stepping far over invisible lines, and operating under the foolish assumption that your silence will extend indefinitely without consequence. This is the exact moment where the cosmic tide begins to shift, not through a grand, explosive outburst from your end, but through the relentless natural laws of energy and divine alignment. As they continue to navigate their lives under the false premise of their own intellectual superiority, they inevitably collide with the undeniable reality of who you actually are. They begin to notice, with growing unease, that despite all their subtle attempts to sideline, undermine, or outmaneuver you, your personal path remains completely unblocked and flourishing. They watch in quiet disbelief as your inner peace remains entirely undisturbed, your spiritual authority grows stronger, and your life continues to move forward in effortless grace and abundance. The traps they set for you seem to dissolve into thin air, while the subtle harm they tried to inflict seems to bounce off your aura without leaving a single mark. It becomes increasingly clear to them that their clever schemes had no actual impact on your destiny, and that their perceived victories were nothing more than empty illusions created by their own vanity. The exact moment of realization for them is often silent, heavy, and deeply unsettling to their core. It dawns on them with striking clarity that you were never actually fooled for a single second, that you saw every single piece moving across the board, and that you simply possessed the extraordinary discipline to remain quiet. The sudden realization that someone possessed complete knowledge of their deceit, yet chose not to lower themselves to respond, carries a psychological weight that no loud confrontation could ever hope to replicate. This profound realization leaves an indelible, unshakable mark on their consciousness because it exposes the vast, unbridgeable gulf between surface-level human cleverness and deep spiritual authority. It forces them to confront the reality of their own weakness, revealing that their grand attempts at manipulation were completely transparent to the very person they thought they were controlling. They are left alone with the uncomfortable truth of their actions, facing the uncomfortable reality that they traded away genuine trust for a temporary feeling of power. As the energy shifts, those who tried to play games with you often experience a deep sense of internal confusion and paranoia. Because they operate entirely from fear and control, they cannot comprehend why you did not seek revenge or try to publicly expose them when you had the chance. They spend endless hours analyzing your quiet demeanor, wondering what your next move will be, completely unaware that your move was simply to leave them behind in the hands of divine justice. Your refusal to engage becomes a psychological mirror that constantly reflects their own guilt back onto them. In the spiritual realm, this shift represents the natural enforcement of universal law. No individual can manipulate, betray, or attempt to dim the light of a divine soul without eventually running into the spiritual consequences of their own actions. The universe does not require your assistance to set things right, nor does it need your human anger to execute justice. By stepping out of the way and refusing to seek personal revenge, you allow divine order to restore balance in its own perfect timing and through its own perfect methods. During this phase of transformation, your role is simply to remain centered, observant, and deeply grateful for the protection you have received throughout the ordeal. You watch the resolution unfold, not with gloating or malicious satisfaction, but with a quiet, humble respect for the undeniable truth of spiritual laws. You recognize that every situation you survived was designed to strengthen your discernment, deepen your patience, and prepare you for greater levels of spiritual responsibility. This tide shift also brings a profound sense of closure to your heart, washing away any lingering doubts you may have carried about your decision to stay silent. You see clearly that playing dumb was never a sacrifice of your dignity, but rather a masterclass in emotional regulation and spiritual maturity. You emerge from the experience stronger, wiser, and completely liberated from the need to manage how deceitful people perceive your quiet nature. As the dust settles, you find yourself standing on higher ground, completely free from the toxic dynamics that once tried to drag you down. Your journey moves forward with renewed momentum, unburdened by the weight of unsaid arguments or unresolved resentment. You have allowed truth to speak for itself, and in doing so, you have claimed the ultimate victory, a life lived in absolute alignment with peace, integrity, and divine purpose. Chosen one. Moving forward, carry this understanding as a gentle reminder of your inherent strength. You do not owe the world a display of your intelligence, nor do you need to prove your awareness to those who are determined to misunderstand you. Your ability to observe without absorbing, to know without boasting, and to remain composed in the presence of deceit is a testament to the depth of your spirit. Continue to walk with grace, knowing that true power never needs to shout. It does not seek applause, nor does it demand recognition from those who operate in darkness. When you know who you are and where your protection comes from, you can comfortably allow others to play their minor games, secure in the knowledge that your destiny is guided by a far higher hand. Thank you for spending this time with me today on Wisdom Path. If this reflection resonated with your journey and brought clarity to your spirit, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Stay grounded, honor your inner wisdom, and remember to always walk peaceably in your divine truth.